to understand. And I'm glad that you said, Dave, that you were here during the saltwater fishing club and the buses. I remember those days where you couldn't even get down here, right? And that's what you're looking at. You're not looking at anything different, that's what you're looking at. Let me just finish.
Yeah.
I served on the Nut Island Citizens Advisory Committee, along with some others that are here. And we did not allow the MWRA to do anything at Nut Island until there was a traffic study. And when the traffic study came back, it was impossible to get any more traffic down here. Now that was 10 years ago, before we had all these condos built and everything else. Now it's even a worse situation than what it is. So no traffic study was done, yet we keep this ball going, have meetings, everybody's really happy, let's eliminate the parking for Louis, and that parking lot is already spilled over, all right? So interestingly enough, when I look at the filings with the state, no traffic study was given to them, no traffic report was given to them, and there's never been an impact study done in this community, never. First time, first project ever, and I've been involved for 40 years, that never an impact study has been done, all right? The impact study would show that the traffic that is there, now I have aerial photographs, because I have a drone, took aerial photographs of the last function that was there, when cars were parked. A fire truck came down and couldn't get down. I think John McCollum actually has a photograph of another truck coming down, couldn't get down the street. And that's what you're looking at. You said more parking, it's not more parking. There's 17 boat parking spaces there, all right? And then off-season, they change them into car parking spots, right? If you go down there on a Saturday night, Louis has his parking lot full, and half of that other parking lot full, if not the whole parking lot. The yacht club hasn't even opened up their function room yet, all right? You're looking at a nightmare. Now, for somebody who doesn't have to go that far down, it's all right, you know, you don't have to get out that far down. My parents live there. An ambulance cannot get down that street. Cannot. We're on a peninsula. It's an island. There's only one road in and one road out, and there's a bottleneck right at Louis. This project is going to create someone to get killed. Absolutely.
Well, let me jump in for a sec. So, traffic study, right? Number one. There's nothing, they haven't broken any ground yet. We've seen honest renditions. I went through the reports a little bit, and I know that it's gonna be state funded and all this fun stuff, that I have to go in and dig in a little bit, or Joe, you know, whoever gets elected, to go in and dig a little bit about, you know, what's going on down there. But when I look at some of the things like Louis, John Galligan right now, every time I get down to Louis, the place is packed. I mean, he's doing a good job. He's trying, you know, he's got these different things going on, and he needs that parking lot, you know? So that's one thing. The other thing is, when I get down a little bit further, we haven't talked at all about Brill Field. Now, Brill Field, I don't want to get any open space taken away, but there's options down there off of Fensmere to do something in regards to add some additional parking down there.
Just to interrupt you, I added 28 parking spaces there. 28. 28 parking spaces they never used. They never used because no one's gonna park all the way down to Grove Field and walk up to Louis. Is not going to happen.
No, but I'm just saying, this is for the Maritime Center. If the Maritime Center was there, whatever, let's say something ended up being there besides the original Maritime Center we have now, that there'd be a place to go, you know, to park your car after you'd be able to take your place, your boat, trailer, or whatever, to a different place if the lot didn't have enough room in it. There wouldn't be any Louis involved. It would be someplace down at Brill. I look at the back of Brill Field, over where the Brills lived on Fensmere, and there is a lot of wasted space out there that could be cleaned up and turned into a nice parking area, and not hurting anything. Now, you know, the ball field would be intact. There'd be parking if they had roller skating down there for that, for the roller rink, the hockey rink. I'm just looking at other options instead of Louis' parking lot.
Let me give you a little more piece of history. And that's, I think, what's lost here. There's a lot of people who were involved in this stuff in the beginning aren't around anymore. I guess the old time now. When Walter was selling his property, Peter Colson and I went to Walter and talking about the sale of that property. We went to the state and said, you owe us, because of Nut Island, you owe us. We want you to buy this and give it to the city of Quincy for $1. The longest lease they can do is 25 years. That lease is gone, so I don't know why we're talking. The city has no rights in on that property anymore. I I don't even know what they're doing,
Right,
quite
I
frankly,
understand
because
that.
police is all gone.
Yeah.
All right. The Secretary of Environmental Affairs joined us down there, we had an afternoon meeting, and we had a commitment from them that it would always remain as it is. It would always remain as it is, a simple boat ramp, no changes, etc. She recognized at the time that if it was expanded in any manner, shape, or form, that it would create more problems than it was worth. And the other commitment we had is that they would never take things off of Boston Harbor Islands and bring them through Howe's Neck, because that's what we were worried about. So those are the commitments. We're going back on those commitments. That was a commitment made to the community. We're going back on them. We're talking about tearing houses down and making regional, widening roads to get trucks in. I mean, you don't widen roads to get trucks in and then don't bring them down here. So I think the whole concept is seriously flawed. My parents live across the street, property values there, I gotta clearly give value. There's no way to fix that traffic unless you take homes.
Well, I'll tell you, if I get elected on November 7th, though, Mike, I'm gonna go back and look at the whole thing. Sit down with the mayor, sit down with the whole shebang and go through everything again. All those reports and look at everything about widening roads. And I'll be, again, open with the community to talk about anything that comes out of there. Now, I'm gonna ask these guys face to face and hopefully they man up and they're honest about their answers. But I'm gonna go back and address the whole thing down there because I wanna make sure it's right. I don't wanna clutter up the end of the neck. I don't wanna make traffic any worse. I don't know if it will get as bad as when Harvey's and Hurley's was there with the buses, but I know it'll get busier. I don't know if traffic will be backed up to Bernie's, but I'd like to go back and take a look at it. Sorry, Mike.
All right, let's change,
Thanks, Mike.
Anybody got a question that's different? Yes?
Well, it's slightly different, but I want to go back to the traffic issues. It's not just C Street. It's all of the streets in Howe's Neck. I live on Manet Ave. Someone drove down the street like over 50 miles an hour the other day. A simple solution might be to put up speed limit signs. There are no speed limit signs around. Not that, I don't know if people would follow them, but at least if you saw that traffic, the speed limit is 30 miles an hour or 25 miles an hour, it would let people understand that they're not on speedways. But I mean, that's a
We're
simple.
talking about people who don't give a damn about speed limits.
Well,
You know,
they're doing that already.
On C
I
Street,
agree.
they've got,
Let's
you
hear
know,
from the
30 mile an
candidates.
hour
All right,
signs.
guys, let's hear from the
And
candidates, all
they
right?
completely ignore it.
Let's hear from the candidates.
I agree.
I think, I'm not sure. I agree completely, and I don't know why signage is so hard to do. I mean, I know we don't want to clutter everything up, but there are some signs that are important and can save lives. A brief aside, I got to know the crossing guard at Manet and Darrow very well because I walk that way with my daughter every morning. And she said, well, hey, you're running for office, can you write me a letter and just get a sign for the school year? Because people fly down Darrow as kids are walking to school, and she's constantly like trying to wave them down. She thought just a sign reminding them school's in session and kids are here would do wonders. And I wrote the letter for her, and I got a letter back that said we'll look into it. I don't understand if the crossing guard is telling you we need a sign. I don't even think that it should be a discussion. This shouldn't be something that needs letters. The crossing guard says a sign will help us here. Let's try it. What's wrong with trying? We need to try more things here. We need to take some time out and go, okay, we have a problem here. Let's start with this solution A. And if solution A doesn't work, we'll go to solution B, which maybe it'll be a speed bump. I know that's like a scary word. But there's gotta be something, because speed in Howe's Neck is something I hear almost every time I door knock. People are saying, slow down. It's so funny, I hear it so much, I'm wondering who's speeding. Because I talk to all these people who are upset about the speeding, but I never get anyone saying, you know what, we just can't fly down fast enough here. So, if elected, I would do things because I was just driving down Edgewater today, checking on my signs, and something back in my head told me, slow down. And a little kid in a tricycle went right in front of me. And I wasn't going fast, it wasn't that dramatic, but I remember thinking, my kids don't look yet. They're, 3 and 7, they'll fly right up to the seawall. And so, you know what, you're just gonna wind up waiting for that light at Quincy Shore Drive anyway, so just slow down.
Joe. Definitely in favor of the speed limit signs, but also, I don't know if anybody, I know everybody likes to read the riveting Quincy Sun in our profiles, but my profile that was put out, I think, last week, talked about addressing those type of issues right off the bat. I know we have big issues that are gonna take planning and time, but some of the things I've seen around here, one of the things that jumps out at me as we're talking about speed is Palmer Street, where they had the accident. Kids were going too fast, they lost control, one got killed. Down there by Lester's, down by the blue store. And they've been asking for the crosswalk to be restriped and possibly illuminated, reflecting, illuminating paint. That's not even done. So there's a lot of little things that I think I can take care of right off the bat. I have a good relationship with the DPW, a good relationship with the city, with traffic and administration and parking. And I think I can get some of these things, Patty, off the ground in regards to parking, speed limit signs rather, and crosswalks, and some of the necessities we need that are helpful in slowing some of this traffic down if they're going along and all of a sudden they see reflection or they see something coming up, they have to slow down for. But put some things in place in some of the bad areas, like C, look at Manette, Palmer Street, those are just a few.
Well, since you started talking about new and different things, I've had this question, and actually it's something I proposed, and it never happened. In 2009, I went to Marco Island in Florida, and they have the most unique crosswalk system that I've ever seen in my life. They use the big crosswalk signs, the big yellow things, and they actually have LEDs all around. And you step in between these things and the light goes on. Right? Now that wouldn't work around here with the snow and everything else and snow removers, but they do. The ones that don't have those have buttons and you push it and the light goes on. And you can see that, but if you were 4 blocks away and it was a straightaway, you can see those. You can't miss them. I actually talked to Councillor Joe Finn about picking 3 or 4 spots around Quincy and trying to install them as a trial to see if they work up in New England because of the snow and stuff. And his suggestion was that I pick 3 locations in Ward 1. And I picked right in front of the hospital. I picked right in front of IGA. And the last one was down at the corner of Winthrop, Rock Island Road, and C Street. And we put a proposal together. Marty Akins contacted actually I took a picture of the manufacturer, and we got a hold of the manufacturer through Marty Akins, and he got him a price and everything else. And Joe proposed it at the city council meeting, and it referred to the committee and everything else, and that was the end of it. I never really kept pushing it, but I mean, since that proposal, people have been hit and killed in those crosswalks.
Did they ever get a cost?
It was under $10,000. Oh, the part I forgot was that I also talked to 103, and 103 electricians were going to install the works as a donation. Actually, 103 members that live in the ward, and the city would have put the breakaway poles in the ground fronts. So the question is, if I could put that together again, would you be in favor? And since that time, they're actually, if you go to Union Street, the rotary that's basically on Route 3, the on and off ramp there has them there. It's a little different, but it's the solar panels.
Yes, I would be in favor. For those 3 locations, the Hop Brow, the supermarket in Adams Shore, 3 good locations for having a pilot or something like that, because the traffic, the first 2, that's prime time for someone to be moving along at a good pace. And the corner here by the rectory, coming around the bend here, is also a blind spot, as we all know sometimes, where a car can be coming faster than you think. So definitely, Mike, it's a good idea.
I love those kinds of ideas. As some of you might know, I work at MIT as an administrator, and so I have a huge respect for technology and innovation. And if we can come up with innovative ways like that, especially lets us lead. I was saying this at the environmental debate the other night, is too often we wait for everyone else to have a good idea and follow along. So this would be a good opportunity for us to lead on some new innovative ways to deal with this type of problem. And it's just the kind of solution that I think is going to, improve quality of life in Quincy, so I would be totally for that.
Anybody from the audience have a question? Paula, you don't, oh, yes?
I got a great idea for that intersection at Rockland and C Street and all of that. Cut those hedges down.
That's fine.
Unfortunately, we don't know the hedges.
For fiscal spending, what do you feel is an area where the city could cut back? And where do you think the city does not spend enough?
Well, I've seen a lot of spending in the last 10 years. I'm always partial with, anything that has to do with the schools, being on the school committee for 12 years. I think the mayor has been very good with the schools. We have a $100 million budget, so, but that's always a place where, there's plenty of ideas coming out of the teachers and plenty of ideas out of the young teachers up there. We have Central and Quincy High, two beautiful schools that we can see how much new technology really benefits the kids and how fast technology gets old. You get it, and 2 years later you get it again. So that's one place I think that they could always look at spending more. I think they do a nice job. I think they've done a nice job with the fire department in regards to putting Rescue 1 back on the rolls. They spent some smart money there. I see a lot of, and I know they have the money. I don't understand why it doesn't get done, but I think some of our parks down here, Brill Field, Chapel Park over by Bayview Ave, over by the dike is all overgrown, all beat up. I'm really kind of brings a tear to my eye to see that Brill Field's like that. It isn't a ball field anymore. It doesn't take much. Along with Nancy McArdle, the park that's up here off of Rockland. I just look at some of the parks, LeBrec. If you go take a look at LeBrec, the ball field, they let it go. They fix it and then they let it go for 3 or 4 years and it becomes a mess. So I'm kind of a big park and rec guy to make sure that gets done. The decrease, I'll jump in and do a little decrease in spending. I think some of the times, I think we gotta take a look at, one of the items is the amount of folks that we bring on in the city to do jobs. I look at the teachers sometimes, and I put them number one, but I would do a complete review, which I'm gonna do if elected, to get in and look at the head counts just across the board on everything under the sun. I've only been out of the school committee for almost 2 years now, and times change pretty quick, and I'd have to get a good idea on some of the things they have out there, because some of the places, I think some of the departments look like they might have too many items, too many people, too many cars, but maybe I'm wrong and I have to go in and do my homework. So I take a hard look at some of the capital spending and make sure we're not going overboard with capital spending across the city.
I'll save you the time. We're going overboard with some of the capital spending. As I said earlier, the vanity luxurious projects are tempting, and it's nice to have the idea of these beautiful green spaces outside City Hall and a maritime center and stuff like that, and now our new animal shelter / dog park that's coming. These are all wonderful concepts, but as I said before, we have a 400-year-old city that's falling apart, and so I would spend less on these beautiful projects for now and get the bones of our city rehabilitated. We're seeing ponding on the roads, we're seeing sinkholes. We had 3 sinkholes last year. That's because our sewer mains are leaking and they're messing up the soil and the road falls. Not only that, but when we have these sewer mains that are leaking like this, we're paying to have seawater and stormwater processed because it gets into those sewer lines and goes out for processing. So we're paying for water that isn't part of our sewer system. We're paying to have that processed. So these are things that we need to shore up first, and then have the nice projects.
Any other questions? All right, we've got a few more here, mate.
Okay, trash.
Oh, I was just wondering.
There you go.
Trash your trash.
We have a trash problem. Now I'm reading it. I didn't make this joke, so. We have a trash problem in Quincy. Sorry, many trash problems. I've read complaints about trash dumped in the street and blown all over our streets and yards. I've heard stories of trash not being picked up until 6 or 7 p.m. I have heard from others that recycling yard waste getting dumped in the general trash. This is costing more money to dump it. It has improved during this election season. So the two questions here, how do we get the service that was contracted for, and how do we get oversight for all of Quincy's contracts, even after the election season? The second part, Quincy needs to increase its recycling. Do you have any ideas for increasing recycling and lowering waste costs?
We learned the other night that Quincy has a 15% recycling rate, and we learned that at the QCAN debate. And I think everyone on the stage was pretty shocked by that. One of the reasons we have a bad recycling rate is we have a trash company that's throwing recycling in with the trash. We've all seen it. I mean, I've seen it. I think most of you have seen it from time to time. So what's been happening lately is DPW has been tailing some of these trucks to make sure that they're doing their jobs correctly. And I agree, I don't think it's a coincidence that we're having enforcement during the election cycle. So what I would want to do is would want to set up some sort of instant feedback that people could either call a hotline like they do for snow removal, or use an app or social media to let people know when they're seeing abuses by Sunrise or whoever's doing the trash, so that DPW can get right on it. And we need to obviously have another bidding system when this contract is up and find a company who's going to do the job that we're paying them to do. The recycling rate, my idea for the recycling rate, as I said at QCAN the other night, is awareness. And I think just as your city council is happy to knock on your doors during an election cycle to say, please vote for me, we need to get out into the communities and explain the benefits of recycling. I know it's a little weird in 2017 to have to explain it, but it does save us money because we're not paying to have it treated as trash, and it does help the environment. So if we have increased awareness, and we can look at those pilot programs with the recycling buckets so that you have less room for trash and more room for recycling, but the bottom line is people have to understand that it's costing their tax dollars when they throw something out that can be recycled, and we can do that through awareness.
Thanks, Joe. I'll answer the first. I'll flip it a little bit and talk about the awareness part that Joe just mentioned. When we were at the QCAN the other night, they asked us which departments you'd want to get involved in the city. And I know the school does a lot of recycling. I know that education. I know DPW with John Sullivan does a tremendous amount. Dan Ramondi, who's in the back of the room, did a tremendous job working with the people at the DPW, people in the administration, and the schools to promote it more. I think the community is the toughest part to get the word. How do you get it to, Jane and Joe Smith, the homeowner who isn't involved really with any city actions? They're just out doing their own thing and putting it out. How do you get it to them? Is it newsletters? Is it QATV? We have a lot of assets in the city to utilize on that. In regards to I was going to call him Savager. Sunrise Scavenger. I went out knocking doors in Adams Shore. I was out at 7 o'clock at night in the summertime, and they came by. And last night, Post Island Road in the fog, who comes rolling by at 6:30? But those guys do. And I asked a few of the neighbors, and they said, yeah, they're pretty messy with everything going on. And for things to sit out, if you put your trash out the night before, and it doesn't get picked up, You know, it's almost out there 24 hours. And the other night, we talked a little bit about compost and, you know, going back to another recycling bin where you'd put food out. Imagine if that was happening with these guys. So, that's on my radar from the get-go, is to check out, the whole routine with Sunrise and take a look. It's gotta be that they say they have so many trucks in the city and they're cutting it in half trying to save money, because they're not covering it. They should be picking up trash at 8 o'clock, 7 o'clock at night, regardless of what time of the year it is.
I have a question. This is very foolish, and I might offend somebody, and I apologize ahead of time. What I don't understand is if we as a city are getting reimbursed for our recycling, why cannot we stop the people who are going into our recycling bins every single day of every single week at every different neighborhood and picking out those recyclables and making a living out of it or doing whatever they're doing, and all we get when we complain about it is, I'm sorry, that's city property, we can't stop them, it's not anybody.
I have an answer for that.
Okay.
They're looking for the nickel deposit bottles.
I know why they're doing it, I'm
You
saying
can,
how.
if you separate them and call the Boy Scouts, they'll come and pick them up. Now you know why I'm gonna answer?
Self-serving.
No, but just to go back, they come down my, you know, I'm a morning guy with the trash. I don't like putting it out at night, because somehow or another, somebody knocks it over or something. So, you know, I'm dragging it out, you know, probably 5 minutes as I hear the truck coming around the corner, one of those guys. But, yeah, I don't understand why, I mean, how many of these folks that do it, I mean, Mike makes a great point if the Boy Scouts ended up with it, but it'd be very hard, I'm just thinking out loud here, for us to keep an eye or have, you know, what would be the check and balance on the guy coming out
But I
here?
just thought we're getting reimbursed for our
Yeah.
recyclables, and here we're missing an opportunity for our reimbursement, so I'm just.
Yeah, I know, it's a good point, I don't have an answer for you, but it's a good point, because it happens all over the place. And they probably, I don't know if they do all right, but probably do okay, you know?
Go ahead.
Yeah, related to the trash issue, though not for individuals, why don't we have, at least in Housneck, I'm sure in the rest of Ward 1 as well, but why don't we have trash receptacles in the area? Like at LeBrec Park, or at the seawall, or at the beginning, at both ends of the Dike Trail. You know, I mean, we have this, there's a real problem with litter around here, and it's because people just don't have any place to put the stuff. Once they finish drinking something, they throw it away because they don't have a place to put it. There's no, it's the only neighborhood I've seen where there's one trash receptacle. It's right outside of Ricardo Park. That's it. I mean, seriously? I mean, it's a simple thing. It shouldn't cost the city a lot of money to put a few, you know, those, what they call those big belly things, you know, so that they can't be broken into.
Yeah.
Really?
And I would be interested in trying out some of those solar compactor ones too. We have them all over.
That's the best one.
Oh, yeah, well then, I agree with you then. That's the name, okay. Yeah, I think that'd be great. I would like to see them more frequently throughout the neighborhood.
We have one of those big belly things next to the ice cream shop, between the ice cream shop and Leo Kelly Park.
Oh, yeah.
And that, I mean, it reeks, it absolutely reeks. And it doesn't matter that there's a trash can there, there's still trash in Leo Kelly Park. And the gardeners come along and pick it up every day. So there's a trash can.
No, and what's, you know, I mean, you get back to it and, you which we should do, because it's our job to pursue the city to empty those barrels and clean those barrels so they don't reek. I was on a run up at Broad Meadows, a fundraiser. I walked, I didn't run, but on the dike, on some of the entrances to the dike, probably behind your house, if you're on C Street where I saw you heading tonight. But, you know, at the entrances to the dike, you know, right there at Rockland, and then also further up by Broad Meadows, it would be a good idea, because you hate to say it, but people pull over there and they don't go too far into the woods right there at the beginning, and they dump. And it could be Dunkin' Donuts cups, it could be something minor, it could be something major, but it's a good idea to try to protect, you know, some of our, well, we'll call it our trails that we have here, which is the dike, you know, and, you know, which is nice to walk on, and you hate to see everything down the sides of it, cluttered with stuff, so it's a good idea.
Go ahead.
I have a question. We've been talking a lot about traffic, and it is a very big issue here in, not only in Ward 1, but in Quincy. But another big issue that's going to be bigger as we get more multi-family housing in the center of the city is the T. Have you ridden it lately during rush hour? I do it every day. And I want to know what you are going to do with the council at large to help pressure the MBTA to beef up their service.
Well, this has been a major theme of my campaign. I ride the T every day myself, Monday through Friday. I get on at North Quincy and I ride into Kendall Square. And so if you follow my Twitter page, I'm complaining about the MBTA almost on a daily basis. And I do think that the city has kind of threw up their hands and surrendered and is not doing enough to stand up for its daily citizens who are commuting into Boston or Cambridge or on the commuter rail even. So what I would say is I have been lobbying Senator Keenan to get on his Citizens Advisory Board. I've been writing to him. I really want a place at that table because I feel that I will stand up for Quincy's commuters better than anyone else running for office right now, because I mean, I'm living that war. And now that they're doing all 4 Quincy stations, they're refurbishing them all at the same time. Who let this happen, you know? So the problem with that is they're selling the North Quincy lot, which is, I mean, the T is selling it. It's 1,200 spaces. They've promised 120 spots to be available during construction. That's 1,000 spaces that are gone. That lot is full Monday through Friday by 9:30 a.m. So there's one nightmare coming down our way. The Wallaston T is getting shut down for 20 months sometime, whenever they keep moving the project back. The Quincy Center's bus shelter is getting worked on. Quincy Adams also getting worked on. It's going to be a nightmare, and what we've been hearing from our local and state government is it's going to be tough. Hang in there. Well, that's not good enough. We have trains not coming for 5 years. Okay, when it's all said and done, are we going to have a world-class public transportation system? I hope so. But, I mean, I really do hope. I hope. But in the next 5 years, we are going to have quality of life sink. And so I think it's incumbent, every city councilor should be railing for the MBTA to treat Quincy citizens with respect. They treat Boston citizens with respect. They treat Cambridge citizens with respect. The South Shore, they've made a mess. I invite you to go to my blog where I have about 1,500 words written on this.
With all the T stations under construction, it is kind of a calamity here that we're gonna go through. My hope is that I know that they're gonna be moving the buses out of Quincy Square. The theme is to go down to Quincy Adams when things are done to remove some of the congestion that up at Quincy Square. I think there's always gonna be congestion in Quincy Square. We all tend to forget when we grew up, or some of us grew up, there were 1 or 2 cars, and now we have 3 or 4 cars, and they're all out and about, and the roads are pretty much the same in Quincy. The T station in Quincy, I sit on the Citizens Advisory Committee for the mayor for the downtown. I sat on it during the Phelan administration. I came back on it with the Koch administration because I'm up that end of the ward. I look at the T station, I hope that the design too in regards to the T station alleviates a lot of the issues we have at some of the T stations, especially Quincy. And I hope that when they're done, they turn that into a user-friendly commuter T station and an unfriendly place for those who aren't supposed to be up there, because that's another chaotic scene up there. Regardless of the traffic that's going on, you've got all that chaos going on. But For those guys to go after the T stations all four at once, as Joe mentioned, the reduction in parking at Wollaston and North Quincy, I don't think anybody has an answer where the cars are gonna go. Now, people are just probably gonna, they're probably just gonna give up, get a ride up to the T, no parking, and get picked up at the T, or take the bus. That's probably what they're hoping, because there's no place around North Quincy for 1,000 cars to go to. There's no place around Wollaston. I mean, all the land is gone. There's no empty lot we can utilize. Down at Quincy Adams, there is a big lot behind it, the Home Depot. There's options down there. If they had issues with the garage, they could put cars outside. That's the only one out of all four that has any type of option. So, I'm dying to see what happens myself.
We need people who ride the T to be on these advisory boards too, though.
We're gonna do one or two more questions, and then we'll give you a few minutes to make your pitch. So,
The sober house, the proposed sober house ordinance, at a time of high increases of substance abuse, the need to help people who go into recovery for drugs and alcohol, and the need for recovery systems has increased. The need for the final step before returning to our families and neighborhoods is a sober house. How do you feel about the sober house use? Do you agree with or disagree with the proposed sober house ordinance?
Yeah, John, the recent one, the one that just went through the ordinance with Quincy.
Yeah.
Let's talk about it. You know, nobody wants it in their backyard. All of a sudden, the sober house shows up and it's in there, there's no warning, and it's in Bill Burke's neighborhood, it's in John McCone's, it's in Dave McCarthy's. So that phrase NIMBY, not in my backyard, always comes up. I agree there's gotta be check and balances, but there's some good points about